UFC 312 is coming up, and we have one of the most underwhelming cards of all time. We have like one or two good fights if you like women's MMA, and besides for that, it's like a really bad fight night. It's super disappointing. It's a hate crime against Australia, but I'm interested in Du Plessis versus Strickland too, because the first fight was incredibly close. A lot of people thought it was a robbery. Me, I really don't know. I think it could have gone either way. Incredibly close fight, but I want to talk about that Dricus du Plessis is one of the most underrated champions in the entire UFC, or just one of the most underrated fighters. He is he's kind of flown under the radar a little bit, right? And you have these guys like Sean O'Malley, who it feels like they kind of get pushed by the UFC to become a star, and to me, it just feels kind of manufactured, right? Like it just feels a little bit pushed, in my opinion. But I feel like the guys that they should be pushing is a guy like DDP. The dude is hilarious. He has great trash talk. He is super funny on the microphone. I am so hyped for the fucking press conference because that's just going to be DDP and Strickland going back and forth, talking whatever shit they want to. And Dricus is actually funny. He's a really funny guy. And if you follow his social medias, you know what I mean. He's always liking and posting funny stuff and like destroying people on Twitter. It's funny. And this dude, he has a very entertaining fight style, right? And it's an MMA fight style too, right? Like no shade to these guys. Like for example, Alex Pereira. He's one of my favorite fighters, of course, but he's a kickboxer at the end of the day. DDP is an MMA fighter, and that's how he fights. He strikes, takedowns, and elbows, clinches, and everything. That's all part of his game. When a lot of people, they don't really mix it up as well. DDP is very well rounded. A guy like Strickland, he's never gonna shoot takedowns, right? But DDP will, and I think it's a very good embodiment of the sport of MMA, his fighting style. And even if it is goofy, even if it doesn't make much sense, it's super entertaining to watch. And the UFC should be pushing this guy way more often, because I think if they were hyping him up like they were hyping Sean O'Malley up, I think this dude would be a much better champion, right? Because there's a chance he wins this fight, and I think there's a chance that he beats Hamzat Chimaev, and that's going to propel him to huge star power if he does that. And I think if the UFC were on board a little bit beforehand and kind of trying to push him more, it would have had more success, right? Because he's super underrated now, and not a lot of people even talk about this, which is kind of upsetting. And Dricus du Plessis is winning these fights, and it feels like he should be losing. It feels like he should be in like a regional MMA promotion, the way he throws some of these strikes, just the way he does some of these things. But it somehow works for him, and it's so entertaining to watch this happen. And I wanted to make this video because when you think of entertaining fighters, who do you go to? You're going to go to Alex Pereira, of course, Ilya Taporia, Islam Makhachev, some of those guys, but DDP is a lot of times left out, and I feel like he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves. I mean, trash talk, amazing. Fight style, amazing and super entertaining. And he's finishing most fights, right? Sure, he went to a decision with Strickland, but Strickland's actually very underrated. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But knocked out Whitaker and submitted Izzy. First guy to submit Izzy. Super impressive, So far, this dude's run has been legendary. He's undefeated in the UFC, right? He is, I'm pretty sure. Like 95% sure he's undefeated in the UFC. He lost sometimes in some earlier promotions, but in the UFC, perfect record. And that's the thing about this next fight, because the first fight was incredibly close with Strickland and du Plessis. Some people thought it was a robbery. I really don't know. I thought it could have gone either way. But this fight, I think people are saying that DDP is going to KO or finish Strickland, and I think they're just saying that because they don't like Strickland anymore, because he's kind of changed. His personality since he got the belt once has kind of changed a little bit, and they don't like him anymore. I think it's highly unlikely that this fight gets finished. I think this fight is going the distance, and I think it's going to be a really close fight again just because of how these guys, how their fight styles match up with each other, right? DDP is going to struggle to get any ground game going. Like, sure, he can take Strickland down. He did in the first fight, but Strickland got right back up. It's kind of like a comparison I'd like to make is like Max Holloway from featherweight. You can take him down, but it's really hard to hold him up. Like Ilya Taporia took him down, but he gets right back up. And it's kind of the same thing with Strickland, right? Even if DDP does mix in the takedowns, I can't imagine there's going to be much submission attempts or ground and pound or anything really meaningful. So I think this fight's going to be mostly on the feet, and I think the same thing's going to happen. All the rounds are going to be pretty close. Strickland's probably going to have more volume, but DDP's going to have the bigger shots. But Strickland rolls super well with the shots, and it's just hard for me to see a world where this doesn't go to a decision. And I think it's going to be a close decision, maybe 48-47 or a split decision. And I have a bad feeling about this fight because it's such a good matchup. Because these are the two of the best guys. I mean, we have Hamza in there, but he's kind of a wild card, which I talked about that in an earlier breakdown video. I'm not going to go into it super much here. But these guys are two of the best in the division. And I think it's going to leave a bad taste in people's mouth because I do think it's going to be a super close fight again. And people are going to be like, oh, dude, it was a robbery for whatever happened this way. I'm not giving you like who I think is going to win. All I'm saying is I think it's going to be an incredibly close fight again. And I don't think either of them are going to like put a cap on it just so, or like Volk did in the third Holloway fight. I don't think that's going to happen here. I think it's going to be incredibly close, which is why it's just not going to leave a good taste in our mouths because we're going to be like, well, really? We did this entire rematch a second time, and we got a super close result again. Like, if DDP wins by split decision, we're never going to hear the end of it from Strickland. He's going to be having a huge meltdown, like, forever, for the rest of his life. But if Strickland wins a split decision, then DDP is going to feel like he got screwed over, and so are the fans. The fans are going to feel like DDP got screwed over, and that's what I'm worried about here. But anyways, this is a super interesting fight, and I think DDP is a very underrated champion, and that's why I'm rooting for him to win. I mean, he's entertaining, and he just has plot armor, man. So that it does kind of make me want to lean towards him because he does actually, unironically, have plot armor. But yeah, and also, I think DDP versus Hamzat Chimaev is a much more interesting fight than Strickland versus Chimaev because I think that Strickland is going to pretty easily lose to Chimaev. But DDP, I'm not so sure. And I made a different video about that. I'm not here to talk about Chimaev, right? He is a total wild card. But I just want you guys to put some respect on DDP's name, right? Knocked out Whitaker, finished Adesanya, first guy to submit Adesanya. I think he deserves a lot more respect than he gets. And if the UFC were to just hype this guy up some, like, come on, man. Like, are you guys really telling me that Sean O'Malley, his star power is a little bit manufactured? It feels like it is, man. And Sean O'Malley, yeah, he's an entertaining fighter at bantamweight, but he's not amazing on the mic or anything like that. Or DDP is. I just think he has better qualities, and I wish that they were promoting him a little bit more as an entertaining guy, because he's just not who you think of when you think of an entertaining fighter, but he really is. So put some respect on DDP's name, and that is about it.